Welcome back to r/NeighborsFromH, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. Give me your laptop, since you have two. So I work in IT, web development stuff, so I know my way around a PC, and my neighbors know this. And a week ago or so, one of them comes to my door and says that they bought a laptop but was not starting up. I told her that I don't really know laptop hardware and only open up PCs, so I can look if something is wrong with the software, so I can probably fix it, but if it is hardware, then she would need to go to a shop. I invite the choosing beggar to enter because I want to get it over with instantly and not have to go drop the laptop off at her house. I turn it on, nothing, not even a light, nothing works. The charging light is on, but the laptop is dead. I told her she would have to go to a shop because this is not a software issue. She mumbles, but leaves without saying thanks. Which I did not really care, really, I just wanted my peace and quiet. Then yesterday, she rings the door, I open, and there she is with the laptop in hand. I will paraphrase the conversation, choosing beggar her, M for me. Choosing beggar, I just got back from the store. They said the motherboard is dead. Me, sorry to hear that. It's a shame. Can't you get a ref? CB cuts me off. No, I wanted to ask you about your laptops. Okay, what about mine? Well, can you give me one of them? I need it for my kids and they don't have anything to play on. No, I cannot give you a laptop because that is my work laptop. Bought and paid from the company I work at. It's not mine. Oh, come on. Just tell them you lost it or someone stole it. Haha. I would get fired if that happened. Really would. Sensitive information on laptop. Well, the other one? That's my wife's laptop. Give me that one. It's perfect for me. At this point I was fuming, but this person is a close neighbor and friend to my mom. I cannot give you my wife's laptop. She bought it. It's hers. Go return the laptop from where you bought it. They will not refund me. They say it's my fault for not checking it before buying. Mind you, she bought it second hand. Well, yes, it is your fault. I have to go, but good luck with that. Slammed the door while she started to talk again. But I really did not have time to deal with her crazy today. These people, how entitled are they to think I can just give away or lie to my job? Have you guys ever met a choosing beggar? Let us know in the comments. My neighbor blamed my dog for car damage after I refused to let her use my Wi-Fi. Okay, so a bit of backstory. My sister and I used to live in this little fourplex in a busy area on the bottom. It was a pretty nice place, the neighbors minded their own business and it was great. Until they moved in. So this family, a couple, 2 kids and her mother, moved into the apartment diagonally from us. No big deal, we were hermits so we did not introduce ourselves or anything and I thought life would just continue on. Me, obviously me, neighbor, wrong. So one day I am home alone, my sister was at work when someone is knocking on my door. I lock my dog up, he's not vicious or violent, he just likes to get into people's space. And opened the door. Now this lady looks kind of crazy, a few branches short of a Christmas tree, you know. Anyway, she's holding this iPad and she's all, "Can you help me? I don't know how to unlock my iPad." Being the nice person I am, I agree and let her into my house while I try to figure out what is going on. Apparently, she had gotten this iPad for payment for cleaning someone's house. This is when I learned she did not have a job and they had forgotten the password. She did have the iCloud info though. Sketchy, but not my table. I call Apple and see if I could help reset this thing. As I am on the phone, she goes and gets her daughter for some reason I don't remember. That is fine, whatever, but while I am fixing this, she's looking around my house and sees that I have a bag of lifesavers. She asks for some, which I give her and her daughter. When I get her thing figured out, I hand it back to her and kinda tell her to leave. Not in a rude way, I was tired and did not want to socialize. As she is leaving, she comments on how good my house smells and asks if there's any chance I had some extra perfume I did not need. Looking back now, I should not have, but I have her a couple bottles of old cheap perfume and showed her the door. She did grab a huge handful of candy for my son before she left, but whatever. That is just the beginning, so she at some point exchanged numbers with me for some reason and a few weeks later she texts me asking if she could use my Wi-Fi. I had already agreed when she was at my house before as long as she paid towards it. But as soon as I agreed, I knew that I should not have. My Wi-Fi was crap even with just me and my sister, so I gave her the wrong password. I know it was petty, but I did not know how else to tell her then. So weeks passed and she would just continue to ask for the password. I would tell her I changed it and that I would call the company, but I knew that was not the end. One day after I told her that I was going to try again, we had this conversation. I fixed as much grammar as I could. Neighbor,
I was going to ask you, do you have any lip gloss from that nice place or anything like that?
Me? I don't wear makeup. Neighbor,
okay, can you do me a huge favor? Can I come down and pick a few clothes? I will wash them myself. I need them. Please, my kids are waiting to go down and I will pay you for them. I just need a few things to wear out of town.
So let it be known, this lady is a skinny girl and I am not. I'm kinda heavy, but I knew that she would not fit into anything of mine. I did have a new roommate who was smaller, who neighbor had constantly commented on how cute and expensive her clothes were, but I would not cross a boundary like letting her take my roommate's things. Me, I cannot. You won't fit in anything of mine and I cannot let you take things from my roommate's closet. Neighbor,
well, what about cute pullovers or something? Or more smell goods and candy?
Me, I don't have any more candy. Truth. Neighbor,
do you have a cute purse or big bag or some kind of cute bag I can have? I'm going out of town and need one, please.
At this point, I did not reply. She would keep asking me for everything if I continued, so I did not reply to this message, but a day later I get this. Neighbor,
what is the username to enter the sign-in page?
Me, sign-in page? You want to log into my Wi-Fi? Neighbor,
I promise I won't look at your stuff. I just want to change the password to something I can remember.
Me, I'm not really comfortable with that though. Sorry, but no. She never messaged me back, but a few weeks later, while I was at work and my sister was home, my sister called me in a panic. Sister, do you take the dog out back to pee? Me, confused as F. No, why? Sister, that guy, lady's husband or whatever, just came down and said that there are scratch marks on his car and that he thinks we are letting the dog jump on their car. So this is what happened. Husband came down and accused us of letting our dog jump up on their car. I thought this was ridiculous as we don't take our dog back that way to pee, let alone the fact that their car is on the complete other side of the lot from ours and we would have to go out of our way to do that. Our dog is always leashed and does his business and then goes back inside. We have an eye on him at all times, so the guy claims that he followed the footprints from his car, the dog prints, to our front porch, which the path to our door is completely cement, and that is how he figured it out. My sister denied it, even refusing to go look at his car, as we are both 1000% certain it was not our dog. The guy gets frustrated and claims that it is on cameras that he had installed and that he had proof. My sister told him to bring her the proof. He threatened to call the cops and stormed back to his apartment to get this proof. That crazy neighbor never returned. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe it was how I treated them or how I would not let them into my account, but we had not had problems with any of the other neighbors. He never called the cops or showed the proof, and she never spoke to me again after the whole thing. I did not lose sleep over it. I was more upset that they would try and blame my dog. Guys, do you have any neighbors that constantly ask for free stuff and don't give you anything in return? Let us know in the comments. And if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you very much. You can park anywhere but where I park. This happened a few years ago, but a conversation about parking has brought it back up and I thought it would be perfect for this subreddit. It is fairly simple, but was so satisfying. So my house is at the end of a close. This is basically a small, longish, private dead-end road to which our house was the last one off. When you reached the end, the actual road morphed into our driveway, was a different color and was separated off by hedges aside from the car entrance. It was clearly our driveway, we owned the land. Upon purchasing the house, my parents were not warned of any a-hole neighbors. The driveway has space for 4 cars, we have 1, it is rarely used as both my parents get the train to London for work and walk to the station. This is relevant, until we come back from a 2-week holiday and find an old Renault plonked in our driveway. At first we say nothing, because we have no issue with someone using our driveway just to visit their family or temporarily, but when the car kept leaving and coming back, we started to get annoyed. They had not even asked us, we don't use the other 3 spaces, but the rudeness pissed us off. So when the car next pulls into our driveway, we are waiting. We open the door, confront the driver and ask him nicely to stop using our drive as a public car park. Neighbor gets annoyed, said he always used it, old neighbors had no issue. Looks us dead in the eye and goes,
"You can park anywhere else, but leave me my space or I will be pissed."
My dad replies and goes, "We can park anywhere else? In that case, we won't park where you park your car." Old rude man smiles, thinks he won and walks off a few doors down to his house. I think my father has given up and let him win. I am a bit disappointed. The next day I wake up for college to the sound of my dad's car. The old man has gone to work and my dad is in the process of parking his bunched up massive Land Rover right over the entrance to our massive drive. Meaning no other cars can enter. Technically parking anywhere else other than where the old man wanted to leave his car. If you have any satisfying malicious compliance parking lot stories, then feel free to let us know in the comments. I forced my Jekyll and Hyde neighbor to move out, but I did not stop there. How we got 2 of our evil neighbors evicted. We, wife and I, live in a townhouse complex. For anyone outside of my country, it is like a row of houses in a gated community. Our complex has 3 rows with 6 houses and 1 row with 5. Need room for that community pool. The 2 evil neighbors in question lived across from us, the one right across from us Unit 10 and the one to their right Unit 11. Not real numbers for obvious reasons. What you need to know is the driveway separating each of the rows. It is wide enough to fit 2 cars okayish. If both cars traveling slowly, they can pass each other with ease. When they first moved in, we got along okay with them. I even played games with their kids, 3 each per unit, when walking past to my house from the car park. I thought they were good families, as when the kids did something like kick balls at our walls and not stop, I would tell the parents and the kids got punished. I explained this cause in just one day they went from a nice family to assaulting my wife. We came home from an event, I think the movies, one night. Another neighbor of ours made it to the driveway before us, so he was first. The people in number 10, whom I will now refer to as Psycho Woman and A-hole Husband, had their family van parked out front of their house across from my house. Kids were getting in and out of the van, while Psycho Woman was keeping an eye on things. Our other neighbor, who lives on our side of the complex right next to us, moved his car slowly past Psycho Woman and the van first. We will call him Nice Neighbor for now. When Nice Neighbor slowly moved past the van, there was no problem at all. My wife was right behind Nice Neighbor and did the exact same thing, slowly moved her car past in full view of Psycho Woman. The strange thing is that nothing happened. My wife made it past without even a glare. I got out and opened the garage door for her to park the car. We reversed the car into our garage and I was about to shut the rolling door when Psycho Woman comes screaming over and yelling, accusing us of trying to run over her kids. She barged into our garage right past me and banged on the driver's side window to the point my wife had to roll the window down or Psycho Woman would have broken it. She started pointing a finger and yelling about how dare my wife try and run over her kids. I want to point out that from the time my wife passed the van till the time Psycho Woman came raging over was 2 minutes. Why didn't she blame Nice Neighbor and why didn't she say anything as my wife moved the car past the van? It is like the worst delayed reaction in history, and to this day we still don't know the real reason they had it out for my wife and I. If the real reason was running over the kids, Psycho Woman would have been in Nice Neighbor's face or in my wife's face while she moved the car past the van. My wife felt cornered and scared and I was about to drag Psycho Woman out of our garage when A-hole Husband came storming over and threatened me to not touch his wife. So I had to leave my wife cornered and defenseless as to hold off A-hole Husband in the driveway. After a few minutes of screaming at my wife, Psycho Woman went too far. She slapped my wife hard across the face and her sharp nails left multiple scratch marks and bleeding. That was the last straw for me as my adrenaline kicked in. I'm not a violent guy. I like to think I'm normally smart by having a policy of the best defense is to not get into a fight in the first place. I stormed over to Psycho Woman, but a-hole husband grabbed my shoulder from behind and demanded to know where I was going. I turned around and gutted the idiot in the stomach with a right hook, then ignored him as he went down. I grabbed Psycho Woman from behind as she was still wailing on my wife and threw her to the ground outside of our garage. I told them to rag off, polite way I said it, and leave us alone. We went inside and called the police to file a report. The police took notes and photos. I even said I punched a-hole husband in defense of my wife. I got nothing to hide. The police did not do much apart from take notes, and that was it. The Jekyll and Hyde 180 they pulled on us from good neighbors to assaulting my wife really took us by surprise. In the weeks and months that followed, we got insults and threats from units 10 and 11 as 11 joined their friends in condemning us. Most others in the complex took our side as they either saw or heard what happened. One thing was clear, units 10 and 11 had to go, we own our house and we ain't up and leaving our lives because Psycho Woman wants to start drama with us. First I called the Body Corp. They managed the complex kind of like a commercial HOA, but not a HOA as not run by residents of the complex, but a company. And filed a report about both 10 and 11 showcasing all our documented proof of the harassment and threats towards us. Next I talked to their landlord who owned 10 and 11 and about 5 other houses in the complex as he is a good friend. He seemed concerned but not enough to kick them out, guess he really wants rent payments. So I decided to get rid of them myself. First I found their Wi-Fi network and before I shut them out of it I got their email address, then locked them out of their own internet connection. I had their phone number from when we were good neighbors and got myself a burner phone. I signed them up for every spam email I could find, order takeout to be paid for on delivery every night of the week. I made sure their mailbox was stuffed with advertising. I even had men knocking on the door for promised fun, only to leave angry, and had a-hole husband and Psycho Woman at each other's throats. I made sure their phone was ringing at all hours of the night. They even threw the phone out of the window. As a final favor, I had a friend who runs a dog washing business come around, pretending they booked her. When they explained they had no dogs and told her to duck off, she finally understood what we have been dealing with. They kept berating her to leave, throwing in racial slurs. Bad idea. She took out the hose meant to wash the dogs and sprayed Psycho Woman and a-hole husband and inside the house all over their carpet. I think they finally got the hint and moved out only a month later. Number 11 followed them a few weeks after. The entire complex had a huge pool party in celebration. But I was not going to let them off that easy. That psycho wailed on my wife for no good reason, prepared to lose it all. From when we were on good terms with Psycho Woman and a-hole husband, I knew they were on temporary visas while trying to apply for permanent residency. I made sure to mention to immigration where they had moved to, thanks friends in the rental market, and handed over the police report of them assaulting us in our own home for no good reason. Seems Psycho Woman did not make her own police report, so ours was the be-all and end-all and was enough to get them kicked out of the country. I know the country they come from, it is hard to get work, why a lot of people from that country move here. I feel zero remorse booting them out, zero zip nada. Guys, would you say that OP's reaction was appropriate or was it over the top? Let me know your opinion in the comments. Woman tries to destroy my orchard, I bankrupt her and get her house torn down. Well, let's start a few years in the past. My great-grandparents planted an orchard, it is now at least 120 years old. My grandparents and my parents were really proud of the peach trees growing in it and did their best to keep them in good health and well. We always threw a big party when the peaches were ready to be harvested and invited all of our friends and neighbors to it. I loved those parties. The neighbors on the property to the south of our orchard were particularly fond of our peaches. They were a bunch of fine old people and me and the old man, Sam, were pretty good friends. He taught me a lot about woodworking with hand tools only, and we had some great evenings in his workshop and we finished many a good whiskeys in there together. In return, he got a lot of fine peaches, marmalade, homemade peach liquor, etc. Sadly, he died a good 10 years ago. Cancer is a real a-hole. His wife followed soon after. Many suspected it was of a broken heart. They had no kids, so all of their property was left to the state except his tools and whiskey collection, which he had gifted me a few weeks before he died. In comes Karen, the name speaks for itself. Haircut, attitude, crappiness. The whole deal. She bought the property of my late neighbors. We had not had the kind of money to buy it at that time, as we had met some dire straits the years before and all our savings were gone. The first thing she did, before she actually moved in, was to go round and making demands of the neighbors on the surrounding properties. When it was finally our turn to listen to her gibberish, she told us that we needed to remove half of the trees as the leaves were blowing on her property. We told her in a polite way that we won't comply to her demands, as the orchard is a vital part of our family heritage / tradition and life and has been there for at least 120 years. She was pretty pissed but did nothing for the time being. There are some things you need to know before I continue with the story. The workshop I mentioned before was situated right at the border to our property. It was a small timber-framed building, at least 160 to 180 years old. The regulations in my state are pretty strict concerning old structures. Every structure over 100 years old is protected and you need a special permission to tear it down. Failing to get this permission can lead to a hefty fine. To get the permission to build a new building, it has to be up to code and you have to ask your surrounding neighbors, and if they agree, you are good to go. Except there's one speciality in my county. You have to keep a certain distance to the border of the property to allow emergency services full access to your property. If one of these requirements is not met, the building is illegal or at least only partially legal and can actually be ordered by court to be torn down. That might come in handy later. So, back to my Karen. After our first encounter with her, she did her best to pester the whole neighborhood. She got the neighbor's dog put down because he allegedly attacked her brat. It later turned out she faked the attack. The dog was the sweetest and most innocent dog you could imagine. A Bernese mountain dog, big but a real teddy bear. Anyways, she later got us to stop doing our annual peach parties, as she called the police every time for various reasons. Noise complaints, we had a band playing there in the afternoon. Arson, we lit the fire in a designated fire pit in the middle of our property. She called the ATF on us, allegedly making moonshine. My dad had a license to distill for our own consumption. In short, she was a real pain in the bum, and after 3 years we decided it was not worth it to deal with various officers and law enforcement agencies every time we threw the party, and we decided to quit. After she had reached this goal, she resorted to pestering us to remove the orchard. We did not cave in, and some things started to get really fishy. Somehow, the tires of our trucks got slashed, eggs got thrown on our farmhouse, our cat disappeared and surfaced a few days later in pretty rough condition. It looked like somebody had tried to cut his tail off. Don't worry, he healed up completely, but we actually couldn't prove that she did all that. Then came the day she made her biggest mistake. She had a company come in a sort of secret operation and tear down the old woodworking workshop overnight. 2 days later, they started building a big garage / recreational center / house right where the shop was, but she missed one fine detail which got pretty important later on. She did not ask for our permission, nor for the neighbors. A short while after, the trees right next to her property started to get sick. The leaves turned brown in the middle of summer and the branches started to die. We lost 4 trees before we figured out the cause. Somebody had driven long copper nails into them. We had a suspicion, but we could not prove it. So we put up some trail cameras, perfectly legal as it was on our own property. We caught her red-handed. My dad confronted her, she apologized, and my dad, being the way too nice guy he is, wanted to let her get off the hook. But not me. The nail she drove into our oldest tree was the final nail to her coffin. I started to investigate. I had some friends at the administration of our county and asked them to do some inquiries. Turned out she has not applied for permission to tear down the old shop, nor for permission to build a new building. I further did some inquiries on the borderline of our property. Turned out, the old markers vanished over time and her building was about 3 feet on our property. After I had gathered all this information, I presented it to my parents. At first, they were reluctant as they did not want to start a neighborhood clash. But after I recalled all the things she did to us and our neighbors, they were in. So let the games begin. First, we called the authorities on her for tearing down a protected building and presented them with all the evidence we gathered. Then we called the building authorities on her for building a building without permission, not up to code, and not only didn't she keep the required distance to the property border, she also built on our property without our permission. Long story short, turned out the workshop has not only been protected because of its age, but also because it was a historical landmark which played a vital role in a conflict back in the 1860s. She got sued for this and had to pay a fine of an equivalent of about $150,000. She further had to demolish her newly built building, costing an additional $50,000, got fined for this too, about $83,000, and had to rebuild the workshop on her own expense, which was another whopping $154,000 as it had to be period correct up to the smallest detail. Means it had to be built with the correct materials, with hand tools only, and to the correct dimensions. As you can imagine, paying professionals to build quite a large timber framed building only by hand gets pretty expensive pretty fast. So all in all, it cost her an equivalent of $437,000 plus further expenses as lawyers, etc. This caused her to go bankrupt, so she had to sell the property in the end, which my parents bought, by the way. Last I heard of her was that she moved back to the big city. Guys, I'm curious to know, do you have any huge trees on your own property? What would you do if a neighbor would try to destroy your tree? Let us know in the comments, and unfortunately, this is the last story for today, so I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching.